When an avoidant is triggered, when their fears have been triggered, they seek to create emotional distance between themselves and their partner. This is called deactivation. This is when they start to shut down, suppress their feelings for their partner, and sometimes even block off their own access to their feelings. Vulnerability, emotional closeness, it's something that they've learned from childhood is not safe. And this really is a childhood core attachment wound. This person received consistent childhood emotional neglect, and they personalize that neglect, feeling like there's something wrong with them, that they are defective. They learn that if you rely on anybody for your emotional needs, if you let anybody in, they're going to disappoint you, reject you, hurt you, perhaps even abandon you. So that's why closeness feels unsafe. So they look to create distance. And here are some of the most common deactivation strategies, which are techniques that they use that are usually driven by the subconscious to create emotional distance between themselves and their partner. Let's get into them. The first strategy that is very common is simply making themselves too busy. Busy with work, busy with friends, prioritizing everything over their partner. The less time they have to spend with their partner or communicate with their partner, the more emotional distance they create. Getting more and more and more distant, being harder and harder and harder to pin down on plans. It's hard to be truly emotionally intimate with a person that you don't have the time to see or communicate with. Number 2, invalidating their partner's feelings. Saying things like, "You shouldn't feel that way. I'm sorry that you feel that way. You're being too sensitive. You're being too needy." Dismissing their partner's feelings as if their partner's feelings are invalid. They get to avoid accountability, to blame shift it onto their partner, gaslight their partner by getting them to doubt their own perception of things and doubting their own feelings, and it creates emotional distance. It is hard to really feel close to somebody that keeps on invalidating your feelings and telling you that your feelings are wrong, your perceptions are wrong, and that their behavior is not the problem, it's always you. That does not build closeness. Number 3, cheating. It is really hard to have true emotional intimacy with a person that you're actively betraying. When you're straying outside of the relationship or the marriage, how can you really have emotional intimacy with your primary partner when you're actively deceiving them and getting that kind of romantic validation outside of the relationship? Emotional closeness feels unsafe to the avoidant, and cheating is a surefire way to create that distance. Plus, cheating will also give them that external validation that they so desperately crave, but at a surface level, because it's really hard to have true emotional intimacy in a secret affair. It's surface level, it's usually not deep, and when it gets too deep, when their other partner, their affair partner, seeks for more, the avoidant will typically distance from that one too. But it's really hard to be close to the person that you're just betraying. Number 4, stonewalling, going quiet, not communicating, ghosting, all these disappearing acts. Well, first, the avoidant often does it out of fear and anxiety. When they get triggered, they go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. And this silence is kind of a combination of flight and freeze. They have so much anxiety in their system by excessive vulnerability, having to reflect on emotions, process emotions, and communicate emotions. And there's a lot of fears at play here that go to their attachment wounds. So they simply shut down. They go quiet. It helps them regulate themselves, but it also helps them create emotional distance between themselves and their partner. Really hard to be intimate with the person that you're giving the silent treatment to, or that you're stonewalling, or just ignoring altogether. Number 5, withdrawing from physical intimacy. Physical intimacy boosts oxytocin. That's the bonding hormone. And because of this, physical intimacy naturally boosts and promotes emotional intimacy. But emotional intimacy causes the avoidant to feel unsafe, so they withdraw from physical intimacy to create more emotional distance. Physical intimacy is a bonding behavior. It is how people grow closer together in a relationship. So by shutting down, not being in the mood, or perhaps even getting to the point where there's so much anxiety they have performance issues, it helps create emotional distance. So withdrawing from physical intimacy is often a technique they do to keep their partner at an emotional arm's length. Number 6, fault finding, argument creating, finding little perceived faults in everything that their partner does. Little criticisms here, little criticisms there, getting their partner feeling like they're walking on eggshells. And these faults will create emotional distance. When you're nitpicking your partner, when you're finding faults in everything that they do, it is really hard to build emotional intimacy under those circumstances. Plus, all these faults that the avoidant finds will help them justify their urge to run away and push their partner away. It helps them avoid accountability because they are shifting the blame of their fears, their attachment wounds, onto their partner. So now they get to avoid self-reflection, avoid accountability, and really avoid poking at that core wound of shame and defectiveness that they feel. That's why they're so averse to accountability, because if they take ownership of doing something wrong or hurting someone, in their own mind, it confirms their own perceived inner defectiveness. So finding little faults helps them justify their behavior, but also create emotional distance. And if you've been on the receiving end of any of these unhealthy distancing, deactivation strategies, don't blame yourself. You didn't cause this. Even if you're not perfect, you're still not responsible for how this person shows up. And if they're engaging in unhealthy behaviors, if they are deactivating and distancing due to their own attachment wounds to create emotional distance between you and them, that's a reflection of them, their insecurities, their attachment wounds, and their character. It's not a reflection of you, and it has no relevance to your worth, because your self-worth is worth more than being distanced from, deactivated from, and perhaps even things like cheated on, gaslit, and discarded. You wouldn't do it to them, so you don't deserve it happening to you. Don't sell yourself short. Do not tie your self-worth into their behavior or their validation.